Hi there, and welcome to Continuing Education, a podcast for homeschooling families with actually useful information. And this week we're going to be doing our inclusive devotional. And if you're new here, this is a devotional that we do just a few minutes to kind of chat about a topic, and it varies from week to week. That kind of helps you refill your cup, give you something to ponder, can be something just for you, can be something for you and your kids. But it's really just a topic or a values-based thing. We pull from all things. Pull from scientific studies and various religions. It's not purely secular, but it's not based on one specific religion either. So this week, or actually last week, we talked about finding awe in the ordinary, and today's topic is somewhat aligned. I thought it would be fun to explore a similar topic of mindfulness and reflection, or paying attention. And I thought about this as just it's kind of a subset of that finding awe in the ordinary, which is really just the first step of being able to find awe is to pay attention to the moment, right? To have curiosity about the moment. Have you ever noticed how a child can spot the tiniest detail that adults overlook? They can look at a speckled rock, or notice a lopsided mushroom, or a cloud shaped exactly like a dinosaur. All of them are treasures in their world. I have one kiddo who loves all things nature, starting from when he was really little and continuing to now. Actually, he'll randomly stop and crouch down real low to point out trails of ants, right? That are weaving in and out of the cracks of the sidewalks, and his eyes will get really big and curious, and he'll describe how the ants work together to carry something bigger than themselves. His curiosity of nature and his love of all the creatures is really contagious. And him paying attention in that moment for something that I might just step on over or on, I learn so much about the world when he's around, and each critter really becomes like this true miracle because I'm pondering the things that he tells me, right? Like, how does a bee fly? Or this one that I learned last week, I legit didn't know this. Are bird bones really hollow? And how come I didn't know that? As it turns out, bird bones are hollow. I did not know that. I Googled that to confirm it was true, but he was right. I don't know how I didn't know that, but he knows it all. So moments like that, though, remind me of something that's really easy to forget, that paying attention is more than just noticing something, right? Like, it's more than just like, oh, seeing the ants. It's really paying attention and being curious and having a moment with that moment. It's a practice of kind of being alive right then in the moment to the now, and letting curiosity pause what we're rushing through long enough in order for wonder to slip in. Scientists have actually studied this. Research in mindfulness and attention shows that when we allow ourselves and our children to notice with intention, amazing things happen physically and neurologically. There was a study done in Harvard in 2015 that found that nearly half of our waking thoughts drift away from what we're actually doing. This mind wandering, as psychologists call it, often leaves us less happy, even if our minds are wandering to pleasant things, which I found really surprising, that the happiest moments were when people really fully engaged in what was happening, even if it was something like mundane, like washing dishes or walking. For homeschool families, this can be really meaningful because when you're learning at home, it can be easy for the days to kind of blend into each other, and when we're just working to get the task off our checklist. But paying attention isn't just about finishing the math page and moving on to the next item. It's really about pausing to notice all the things, like, oh, it's raining, and I really see how that one drip of water rushes to the other when it's raining. I don't know. That was just a thought. It's hearing how your kiddo is sounding out a tricky word and noticing that they've really mastered that SH sound, or catching the moment when they, are handwriting and they go from being frustrated to, oh my gosh, I've got it. One thing that we can do as parents, I think, is to call it out, to notice that, and to call it out. And when we notice those small things out loud, like, hey, did you see how you figured that out? Our kids start to understand that paying attention doesn't just mean forcing your mind to focus or to uncomfortably focus. It means just being curious about what's happening right now. There's an educational psychologist, her name is Linda Stone, and she coined the term continuous partial education, or shortened to CPA. And she uses this to describe our modern tendency to scatter focus across multiple directions, kind of like multitasking, but a little bit different. And I found an article that she wrote, and I wanted to read a little bit to you because I felt like it spoke to me in a way. of how so much of my day, because I homeschool and I work full time and we're doing all the things, right? How it's easy to feel like we're pulled in all these different directions. And so when she described continuous partial attention, I thought, this resonates with me. And I feel like I understood the consequence of this. So in her article, she says, continuous partial attention and multitasking are two different attention strategies motivated by different impulses. When we multitask, we are motivated by a desire to be more productive and more efficient. Each activity has the same priority. We eat lunch and file papers. We stir the soup and talk on the phone. With simple multitasking, one or more activities is somewhat automatic or routine, like eating lunch or stirring soup. That activity is then paired with another activity that is automatic, like writing an email or talking on the phone. At the core of simple multitasking is a desire to be more productive. We multitask to create more opportunity for ourselves, time to do more, and to relax more. And then she goes on and she says, alternatively, in the case of continuous partial attention, we're motivated by a desire not to miss anything. We're engaged in two activities that both demand cognition. We're talking on the phone and driving. We're writing an email and participating in a conference call. We're carrying on a conversation at dinner and texting under the table. Continuous partial attention also describes a state in which attention is on a priority or primary task, while at the same time scanning for other people, activities, or opportunities, and replacing the primary task with something that seems, in this next moment, more important. When we do this, we may have the feeling that our brains process multiple activities in parallel. Researchers say that while we can rapidly shift between activities, our brains process serially, which means that we can't actually think of multiple things at one time. We process them one at a time, even if we're moving quickly from one to the other. She goes on to say, why care about the difference between multitasking and CPA? Continuous partial attention is an always-on, anywhere, anytime, any place behavior that creates an artificial sense of crisis. We are always in high alert. We are demanding multiple cognitively complex actions from ourselves. We're reaching to keep a top priority in focus, while at the same time scanning the periphery to see if we're missing other opportunities. If we are, our very fickle attention shifts focus. What's ringing? Who is it? How many emails? What's on my list? What time is it in Bangalore? In this state of always-on crisis, our adrenalized fight or flight mechanism kicks in. This is great when we're being chased by tigers. How many of those 500 emails a day is a tiger? Is everything an emergency? Our way of using the current set of technologies would have us believe it is. And then she goes on to say that this overstimulation can actually bring us lack of fulfillment and higher cortisol levels. And over time, this is just causing a very stressful environment where we're not getting what we need. She emphasizes that things like deep attention can replenish energy, creativity, and relational warmth. And so I thought about this because I feel like I feel this way at any given moment, especially during the day when you're flittering from kid to kid, or between your work or your spouse, or cleaning your home, or all the other tasks that you may have going on. It's easy to kind of like not be able to really pay attention to one thing and be in that moment. And so I thought to myself that maybe sometimes it's not so much managing my tasks, but really like managing attention and being able to honor the attention that I need to give it, and being willing to be curious enough about an activity and about what pulls my awareness and my attention away and what draws it back. So I was thinking, like, how do I put this into practice in homeschool, right? I started to think that maybe homeschool can be less checklist based. I kind of do this already. I do a lot of routines, but instead of like, these are the things we need to get done this week or this month, it can be kind of a series of attention shifts. So for example, if your kiddo is distracted and their attention is drawn to a bird outside the window, maybe we need to honor that and reroute a reading lesson into a nature sketch. Or if you notice your child's mood is a little on the sour side, maybe we can soften our impatience a little bit into empathy and kind of shift what we're doing. These are smaller adjustments, but they can create that feeling of presence rather than pressure. And those lessons that we have to do will inevitably come, but not everything needs to be on this set timetable or schedules or blocks. It can be in things like routines and series of shifts. So paying attention, I think, can be really difficult. I think in that sense, it kind of becomes an art form, right? And like any art, it deepens with practice. So You can maybe have a moment of noticing where before your lessons or your morning routines, or maybe in the middle of everything when things start to get crazy or kids aren't getting along, maybe pause and take 30 seconds to share something that people are noticing and allow everybody to kind of partake of the sound or the smell or the thought or the feeling that that caught someone's attention. And that doesn't require, having silence, because you can do it in the middle of your hectic day. It just requires that, you and your kiddos are willing to try. And over time, I think that something like that, where we're really paying attention to what we're noticing in our senses, that ritual can kind of shift the day from like this reactive rush, rush, rush to a more responsive moment of safe and belonging. One thing that I've been doing, and that's probably why I was thinking about this paying attention concept, was because I am really task-based. It's hard for me to just pay attention in the moment when I feel like I'm in the moment of my checklist and I'm wanting to make sure that I'm getting all my tasks done. So in true Heidi form, perhaps, I thought, well, how can I pay attention? How can I help pay attention to things in the moment, but also be able to nurture the things that I like and what I know about myself, which is task-based. So I thought, well, maybe I put paying attention on my task list. So what I've started to do the last few weeks is, I have maybe 20 things I need to do. And so I'll pull out the top 3 or 5 things that I think are the most important that week. And whether they're work related or personal related or whatever, the tasks that I must do. And I try to make those my priority. But then I also pause and I think about, okay, what's calling my attention? What is something that I could do? What could I focus on and put my attention towards that would also help me feel nourished? So here's an example. I recently started making vanilla extract. I'm all into it, but with a hectic life, sometimes I don't have the opportunity to spend my whole day smelling and cutting vanilla beans. Even though as much as I would like to, that's not something I can do. So this week I made my priority list. I pulled out 3 things that I had to do for work, and I pulled out the task that I really wanted to do for my vanilla, which is I wanted to make a little label to go on my vanilla bean paste. And so I spent some time, I ordered the label that I was going to put in my printer, and I spent some time kind of creating what it would look like on Canva. And that was just for me. It wasn't for anyone else. It was something that I could put on my list because I'm a task-based person, and apparently I can't just pay attention in the moment and go on a whim of creating such a thing. I had to put it on the list. But then I realized that because it was on my list, I could pay attention to it. And it was something that really was just to help me feel cared for and seen. So maybe that's something that you could put into practice too. The other thing that I've started doing is at the end of the day, I kind of take stock again. Like, was there something that I noticed today that I might have missed if I were rushing? Or is there something that I noticed was calling my attention today that I didn't give time to do? And maybe that's something I could write down to pay attention to the next day. So this week, maybe just take a minute and think through what are some things that you're not paying attention to that you can or should or want to pay attention to. And remember that paying attention and being in the moment and being curious and having wonder in that moment is an act of love, not just towards children or towards your world or to your spouse or your home, but also towards yourself. Taking the time to pay attention to the things that you need and you want can be an act of love for yourself. So may you notice what's quietly beautiful today and this week.